Welcome to the Oregon Motivation Center live session. I am Blaine, a certified hypnotherapist and mindset coach, and today we're going to explore relaxing hypnotic experiences to help you refocus and reset your mind. Quick disclaimer, this is for relaxation, self-improvement, and educational purposes only. It is not medical advice and not substitute for therapy, diagnosis, or treatment. Please do not participate while driving or operating machinery if we do the hypnosis part. If you choose to take part in this, though, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own well-being and participation. If you have any medical or psychological concerns, please consult a licensed healthcare professional. Participation in this session implies your consent to relaxation and positive visualization techniques. Hypnosis is not magic or some sort of a spell. If you do not choose to participate, it will not have an effect on you. Direct your mind, set your intentions, and reach your goals with the Oregon Motivation Center. Take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's begin your journey. That was a good preamble. Alright, what is everyone interested in? Go. Yeah, so that's what we're doing here. If anyone has any questions, this is really quiet. Hello? If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them. Yeah. Hypnosis is a method of retraining our mind. Let's see, where do I have my notes? Yes, that. Go into Drive. So the technique I'm working on is called Museum of the Mind. Also writing a book. So I'll just go through some of my book until we get through to 25 minutes, which is our goal. The Foundations of Consciousness and Change. The Nature of the Mind. There are 4 states of consciousness. For simplicity, I describe consciousness through 4 basic states: beta, alpha, theta, and delta. These aren't rigid categories, but rather zones of awareness that flow into one another like the colors of a gradient. Beta is our wide awake, problem-solving state. It's where we analyze, plan, and navigate the world. Beta is sharp and outwardly focused, perfect for driving a car or having a conversation, but too much of it can create mental noise and tension. Alpha is the natural daydream state we slip into when we stare out the window, lose track of time, or become absorbed in a story. Alpha is soft, creative, and receptive. The critical mind loosens its grip here, allowing ideas and images to drift freely. Theta is a threshold between waking and dreaming. The waking dream state. Theta is the threshold between waking and dreaming. The waking dream state. It's here that imagination and reality merge. During hypnosis, meditation, or the moments just before sleep, we sink into theta. This is where emotional learning and interchange becomes possible, because the non-conscious mind is listening closely. And delta is the deep sleep state. It restores the body and resets the mind. And in hypnosis, we rarely reach delta. The full sleep limits conscious participation. but knowing it exists reminds us that consciousness continues to flow even when awareness recedes. So when we practice hypnosis, we aren't imposing an artificial state. We're directing the natural descent from beta down to theta intentionally. Hypnosis is not a trick or performance. It's a collaboration with the brain's innate ability to shift modes. So these four states can kind of be imagined like the floors of a building. Beta occupies the top floor with bright lights and conversation. Alpha is the lounge below where the lighting softens and ideas begin to blend. Theta is the quiet gallery underneath, dim, dreamlike, and filled with symbolism. And Delta is the deep foundation where the lights go out completely and the system repairs itself. In everyday life, we constantly ride the elevator between these levels. Reading a good book might lower us from beta to alpha. Listening to music can bring us to the edge of theta. Drifting off to sleep carries us deeper still. The skill of hypnosis lies in learning to hold the door open between those floors, remaining aware enough to observe, yet relaxed enough to let the deeper mind speak. Hypnosis is a form of meditation. Very specific method of controlling the brain state. The main difference between hypnosis and meditation is that meditation is more of a solitary thing, whereas hypnosis is very guided. We often treat what we imagine as pretend, but the nervous system does not always see it that way. When you imagine biting into a lemon, your mouth salivates. When you picture a loved one in danger, your heart races. The body responds to imagery and genuine physiological changes. The body responds to imagery with genuine physiological changes. In hypnosis, this response becomes the bridge between symbolic experience and physical outcome. This is why hypnotic experiences can be so profound. When guided skillfully, the mind rehearses new behaviors and emotional responses with such richness that they begin to unfold naturally in the waking life. In essence, the theta state becomes a laboratory for transformation. Our mind isn't a single solid object. It's an environment, an ecosystem of focus, memory, emotion, and body. Each state of consciousness highlights a different layer of that environment. Beta lets us interact with the external world. Theta opens the door to the internal world. Both are vital. We spend most of our lives in beta because survival depends on it. But deep change requires us to visit the quieter floors, where insight and healing live. As you explore hypnosis, you'll learn not only to visit these layers, but to navigate between them deliberately. You discover that attention is a tool, not a cage, that imagination is not childish fantasy, but the mechanism of adult transformation. Throughout this, I'll use the term non-conscious instead of unconscious. Unconscious is usually how people talk about the parts of mind that are not conscious in hypnosis, or possibly the term subconscious mind. But I like non-conscious because that's really what it is. They're parts of your minds that you are not conscious of. It's simply everything the mind does without your conscious supervision. Breathing, a lot of times regulating emotions. When we work hypnotically, we communicate directly with these non-conscious processes. We aren't commanding them, we're inviting them into dialogue. They hold the automatic patterns that shape our life, and by entering theta, we create a space that those patterns can be renegotiated. Hypnosis is not a departure from normal awareness. It's a return. It's a gentle descent from the surface noise of beta into the calm, imaginative current of theta. Its method of experience is healing, creativity, and change from the inside out. There's a special moment between waking and dreaming where thought becomes image and image becomes sensation. is a space both quiet and alive, logical yet fluid, the place where imagination takes on the weight of reality. This is theta, the rhythm of the mind that makes hypnosis possible. Theta is not a mythic condition or a trance imposed from the outside. It is a familiar mental neighborhood we pass through every day. When you drift between sleep and wakefulness and find yourself half aware of a dream, that's theta, or high delta. When you are absorbed in a story or a memory and the outside world fades, that too is theta. It's a doorway through which ideas become experiences and experiences become new patterns of being. How the imagination becomes real. When a person in hypnosis imagines confidence, the body mirrors that imagination. The shoulders straighten, breathing steadies, and the tone of voice changes. When they imagine calm, the parasympathetic nervous system activates, lowering blood pressure and heart rate. When they imagine freedom from a habit, the brain begins to build a network of expectations and behavior to match that vision. Words alone rarely convince the non-conscious mind that a new behavior is the desired behavior. But when an imagined experience is felt as real, when it carries texture, sound, color, and emotion, the non-conscious parts of your mind can accept it as information about the world. It says, this is where we live now, and it learns to accept these new patterns of existence. This is why suggestion in hypnosis is not persuasion, it's immersion. The purpose of guiding someone into theta is to let the imagined become embodied. This is why people can leave a session feeling different before anything in the outer world has changed. The inner pattern has already shifted. Our whole experience of reality is generated inside of the brain. So everything you see, everything you hear, everything you feel is your brain's best estimate at what is happening outside of it. And your emotions to those things are learned behaviors. And it can be hard to change those learned behaviors. But with hypnosis, we can go into the waking dream state and have an experience that is so real and designer that you learn how to have emotions in a different way in those settings. So during hypnosis, a person can revisit a painful memory without reliving it, because the theta creates a buffer of observation. This experience will feel real enough to re-engage some emotion, but distant enough to reshape the meaning. That's a balance point between where healing occurs, vivid enough to matter, but attached enough to transform. One technique that is used for this is to watch the memory first up on a screen, and then you step into it after. That's not a full explanation of what it is, but that's a basic explanation. This is also why theta experiences can seem dreamlike, full of symbol and metaphor. The non-conscious parts of your mind speak in imagery, not sentences. A locked door might represent protection, a bright light might mean realization. Interpreting the symbols isn't about decoding universal meaning, but asking, what does this feel like for you? Every image is personal. The symbols are a bridge between the language of feeling and the logic of thought. Hypnosis. Theta is where we rehearse our reality. Athletes use mental imagery to refine performances. Musicians imagine a perfect passage before playing it. These practices work because the brain cannot fully tell the difference between doing and imagining. Each repetition builds neural familiarity, and the deeper towards theta you are, the more intense that experience is experienced. Hypnosis takes this principle deeper. Instead of rehearsing movement, we rehearse the state of being: calmness, confidence, forgiveness, focus, whatever the thing is. And the non-conscious mind begins to build a new identity map around those rehearsed emotions and experiences and behaviors or beliefs. Over time, the body and behavior follow that blueprint naturally. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is permanent either. Just like any other belief or behavior in life, there are lots of things that can cause you to shift back to the way that you were after or before the hypnosis helped you make your change. So hypnosis isn't necessarily a permanent change, but learning what it does and how it works can help you to make sure that you keep moving in the direction you want to be. The misconception of control. Because theta appears dreamlike, many assume hypnosis involves surrendering control. The truth is the opposite. Theta allows you to reclaim control from the automatic habits that usually run you. And if you are in a trance and you are having experiences you don't want to have, you will just wake up like you're in a dream where you're aware of it, and you just choose to wake up. You can't be forced to stay in hypnosis. That's simply not possible. In waking life, we often act out old scripts without noticing, reacting instead of responding. In hypnosis, we pause performance, step backstage, where we can rewrite the script entirely. One technique I like to do when in theta, I call it the museum of the mind. So you have whatever your difficulty is. Let's say it's public speaking. And after you're in that trance state, you imagine yourself at a museum of your own mind. This museum has a lot of wings to it. Each one is a part of your life. And in one particular part of it that you'll go to, you'll find a piece of art that represents your confidence in public speaking or whatever it is. And whatever this piece of art is, you're going to first understand it and learn about it. And you'll ask questions and see if there are answers about what its purpose is and how it protects you or guides you or helps you. And what we're going to do is find a new way to provide those same benefits. So if it is public speaking, what is it that it's protecting you from? Possibly, being embarrassed or whatever. But then we have your non-conscious mind help you create a new piece of art for how you feel about speaking in public. But this piece of art is going to represent your confidence, and it will take the place of the lack of confidence. That's essentially how it would work. So each exhibit in the museum represents an aspect of the person. Maybe it's a belief, maybe it's memory, maybe it's a habit. The hypnotee becomes a visitor and a curator. And it's not simply a fantasy or a dream, it's a functional architecture. A lot of the non-conscious parts of our mind react metaphorically to life. And not only do we want to do that, but also you want to experience the new behaviors you want to have in the conditions you want to have. So you'd imagine yourself in the future, with a public speaking example, being in front of people and talking to them, but doing so with confidence and ease. And in that theta dreamlike waking dream state, it's much easier to have whatever emotional experience you want to have while you're doing the behaviors. All right. I'm just going to pause for a moment, step back. Hello and welcome to the Oregon Motivation Center live. I am Blaine. I'm a certified hypnotherapist and mindset coach, and today we're going to explore relaxing hypnotic experiences and other hypnosis-related things. Disclaimer, this is a session where we're talking about discussing doing relaxation, self-improvement, and it's all for educational purposes. It is not medical advice and not substitute for therapy, diagnosis, or treatment. Don't participate with any sort of hypnosis stuff while driving or operating machinery. By choosing to take part, you acknowledge that you're responsible for your own well-being and participation. If you have any medical or psychological concerns, please consult a licensed healthcare professional. Participation in this session implies your consent to relaxation and positive visualization techniques. Hypnosis is not magic or some sort of spell. If you do not choose to participate, it will not have an effect on you. At least no more than a normal conversation would. Direct your mind, set your intentions, and reach your goals with the Oregon Motivation Center. All right, there we go. Communicating with the non-conscious mind. Practical dialogue methods are not traditional conversation. Although you can possibly have a conversation with your non-conscious mind. It takes on some sort of a form that you communicate with. But also there are things that the hypnotist can do with the non-conscious mind, like ideomotor signaling. That's where you set up a specific signal, like a finger going up for yes, another one for no. That's a common ideomotor signal in hypnosis. And there's also symbolic conversations that happen during hypnosis. It's like you have an experience, but that experience is the non-conscious mind's way of expressing an idea rather than words. It's important to always emphasize the value of the non-conscious processes and what they were doing to protect or enhance your life, even though they had an overall negative experience for your conscious mind. What else was I going to say? Does anyone have any questions about hypnosis or hypnotherapy? Yeah, okay. So the hypnotic session with the Museum of Mind should be seen as an installation art. You can imagine walking into an immersive art exhibit, one where light, sound, and texture guide you through emotion and insight. A well-crafted hypnosis session will work the same way. The hypnotist acts as a curator of experience, arranging sensory, emotional, and symbolic elements so that the participant naturally moves from problem to resolution. So every hypnotic session has 3 structural phases. Their orientation, establishing safety, intention, and permission for the session. The immersion, it's the lived sensory experience of transformation that they experience in the state. And integration, the return, carrying the new pattern to daily life, also called future pacing. These phases correspond to the entry hall, the interior galleries, and the reemergence from the museum. A full cycle of exploration and return. So in designing a hypnotic experience, remember the 5 key principles. The non-conscious responds best to clear, single-focused experiences. One main theme per session is ideal. Symbolic richness, the use of metaphor and sensory detail to engage imagination, colors, textures, sound, and temperatures. Safety. The participant must feel in control at all times, and they are. Every depth is optional. The hypnotist guides, but the non-conscious decides what to accept. and integration, and every experience by reconnecting with the present and acknowledging the mind's cooperation. These principles ensure that hypnosis feels like discovery, not persuasion. All right. And that was at least part of today's session. All right. Any questions before the live ends? Nope. Okay, cool. That's it for today's session. That was a brief little discussion on hypnosis. Have a good day.